Rachel Lee, and I'm the founder of Ice Bath Boston and Breath. Here we help people who are struggling with anxiety, breathlessness, and chronic tension help to regulate their nervous systems using breathwork and ice baths. And we use these two modalities because it's so important to have both the psychological and the physiological components when it comes to mental health. And so many interventions are just one or the other. And oftentimes we don't consider breathing at all. So what's really cool is your diaphragm is right here. It's right at about your 8th rib level, and it actually spans all the way back to your spine. So it's like a pizza-shaped muscle inside of you. And when you inhale, the diaphragm, this is the bottom part, it flattens, and so it expands to the front, to the sides, and to the back. Now, when you exhale, the diaphragm actually relaxes and it pushes up, and therefore you expel air. So inhale, expand, exhale, narrow. The problem is, though, that most people, because of chronic stress and just the crazy life that we live in, what happens is instead of breathing low and slow, like this, with the lateral ribs coming out and really into the belly, people are usually like this. And you get a really high, deep breath. And the problem with that is since we breathe 21,000 times per day, your diaphragm should be doing 80% of the work. Most of your breathing should be down here in zone 1 and in zone 2. And these up here are what I call your accessory muscles. And the problem is that they're not built for endurance. They're built for emergencies. So like when you're running from a tiger or when you're actually sprinting on a track, those are the times that we should be using these accessory muscles, not for every single day breathing. And the problem when we use these accessory muscles all the time, that tells our body that we're actually in like a low grade of fight or flight because they're only supposed to be used when we really desperately need them, when our sympathetic nervous system is in control. And so just simply by fixing our breathing mechanics to become full diaphragmatic breathers at a normal level, we can transform anxiety, breathlessness, and chronic tension just one breath at a time. The reason that we use ice baths here at Ice Bath Boston Breath is because the ice is the best low stakes stressor to practice down regulating in. And so what's really cool is we actually measure how quickly you can down regulate, how well can you calm yourself down in how short of amount of time when you get into the cold. Because this translates into other aspects of life. Whether you're prepping to give a big speech or you're having a really important conversation with your partner, you need to go into that calm to be able to think clear-headed and to make the best decisions possible. So we don't care like how long you stay in. We don't care what the temperature is. The ice is accessible to everyone because we manipulate 3 variables: the temperature, the time that you're in, and how much of your body you're in. You actually don't have to put your entire body in to get the benefits of cold exposure. So the way that we measure this is we have this fancy dancy heart rate monitor. Bluetooth heart rate monitors don't project underwater. So I had to figure out a way to get the sensor above water. And I like to say there's nothing a girl can't do without a glue gun. And so I actually just glued an optical heart rate monitor onto a pair of regular blue light glasses. And so people put these on. And then in my app, the algorithm, it's called your parasympathetic recovery score, or your ICE-Q. It takes into account the temperature of the water and your resting heart rate. And then what happens is when you hit start, you get a graph so you're able to see, so I'll pretend I'm getting into the ice bath, because what happens is your heart rate gets jacked all the way up. So when your heart rate gets jacked up, and then you're able to breathe yourself down. So how quickly can you calm your heart rate down? So breath by breath by breath, you're able to lower your heart rate. Now, the problem is that when it takes people longer amounts of time to downregulate, then it means that you're not letting your body know that you are truly safe. And safety has both a psychological and a physiological component. So you can tell yourself, I'm safe, like I've got this, I'm capable as many times. But if your heart is still racing, if your muscles are still tight, then your body doesn't believe that. And there's a great book by Dr. Basil van der Kolk, it's called The Body Keeps the Score. And so our body just tracks exactly how much stress we're keeping. And if we're not able to align those mental and physiological processes, we're not recovering from stress as efficiently as we can.
Welcome back to the Lily Grace Lifestyle Podcast. Thank you so much for coming on today, Rachel. I'm so excited to have you and talk about your business and your journey. So first of all, what defines your lifestyle, would you say?
Oh, that's a great question. And thank you so much for having me. My lifestyle, in a definition, I would say is first sustainable. And not from what we kind of traditionally think as sustainable, but I'm kind of talking from a mental burnout perspective. It's also very intuitive, is what I would say is both. I can't ignore gut feeling. So every big decision I've kind of made in my life has been one that isn't necessarily societally normal. And but it has led me to this. It has led me to finding like where I'm truly happy. And then day to day, the reason why I said sustainable is because I used to be a person that like would sacrifice sleep. I used to go. I used to wake up early, go work till whenever. I used to forego taking time for friends. I used to forego taking time for myself, and just seeing the cycle of crash and burn, right? I am the biggest advocate for ensuring that people prioritize themselves, prioritize their sleep, prioritize these little moments of recovery. Because what I like to say is stress and recovery is like a seesaw. So every time we have a stressful moment throughout our day, we need to counter that with a couple minutes of a replenishing activity, whether it's like a couple minutes of breathing or an ice bath or just stepping out into the sunshine and just taking a moment for yourself. But that way, when you have this back and forth, you are then not draining your battery.
Right. Thank you so much for tuning in to this podcast episode. Without you, I would not be where I am today. If you haven't already, please subscribe, like, and follow the podcast. And if you haven't already checked out my vlog formatted videos, please do. There I show exclusive behind the scenes on my lifestyle, my routines, my travels, friends, business, relationships, etc. And it's the more laid back, low-key version of the life. Stay tuned for more, and thank you so much again. And let's get back into this amazing episode. Right. And what is a first gut moment that you can remember in your childhood or later in your adult life that you really decided to do something non-conventional?
There's a lot. The first, I tried to convince... It's so funny when I think about it. I tried to convince my parents to let me be part of the first group of students to go to NYU Abu Dhabi.
Oh my gosh.
I remember I took them out to dinner at the Summer Shack when it was there in Hingham, and I like had a whole presentation deck for them, and I was like, you need to let me go. Like, cause I grew up in Hingham and I was like one of 4 Asian kids, and I wanted to, and I was like, you're gonna get this. And I wanted to see the world. I wanted to see something different, and I learned, and I wanted to go to NYU, and I wanted to travel, and I was like, we can do this, guys. And they were like, absolutely not. So I did not do that. Okay. But then I got them back because then right after college, I ended up becoming a science teacher. And so I had studied abroad my senior year of college in Copenhagen. I had a family friend.
I love Denmark.
Really?
3 times.
You were? Oh my God, you've been 3 times? Yeah. That's like technically more frequently than I've been.
That's amazing. So you studied there.
Yeah, and I had a family friend who, and I was able to do like a teaching internship there. Wow. And I had a family friend who said, hey, you actually can do this for a living. You can be an international teacher. Oh, and I was like, let's go. So I went to a hiring fair and I went country shopping. I interviewed with like a couple schools in China, one in South Korea, a Moroccan school, and then Amman, Jordan. and without consulting my parents at all, I had a friend help me go through the contract. I signed a contract to teach in Amman, Jordan for the first 3 years.
Wow.
out of college. And came home and told my parents, and I'm like, hey, I'm going to Jordan for 3 years.
That's so interesting.
And then the next the next one would probably be after Jordan, I was in Philly, inner city Philadelphia. I was a math and science teacher for ESOL students, actually. And I burned out really hard during the pandemic. And this was something that it took me a really long time to move past the regret and the guilt over, but I quit teaching, and I quit mid-year. And I felt extremely guilty for abandoning those kids mid-year. But I was miserable. The school was incredibly unsafe. There were kids, kids were bringing in knives, they were smashing through doors, and my nervous system was bubbling up to the top, and something happened where I was like, if I don't leave now, I feel like I'm gonna get stuck here forever. And so I was at a layover in Atlanta coming back from a wedding in El Salvador over Thanksgiving break, and it just hit me that everything negative in my life was stemming from that job. And I was just like, I can't go back. And so I emailed that principal in the Delta Lounge at that layover, and I was like, I'm sorry, but I quit, and I'm not, keep all the stuff, but I can't come back. And then I went into fitness and became an online strength training and nutrition coach after I worked at a gym for a little bit, and I moved to Argentina for a year.
Really?
And then I moved to Mexico for a year.
Oh my gosh, you've done everywhere.
So when I tell you, gut decisions, I mean it.
Wow. And then what led you to Ice Bath Boston?
Yeah. So my second day in Mexico, I was trying to make friends. Like any expat, when you go anywhere, you're like, I know no one, we'll figure this out. And so I went, and I was at a beach, and I met this group of people, and they were like, hey, come take an ice bath with us next Wednesday. And I was like, it's 98 degrees here. It's beautiful. I'm from Boston. I should like the cold. I hate the cold, but I really need friends. And so I was like, oh, fine, I'll go. So I went that next Wednesday, and I remember walking up this dirt road and seeing this dinky little Amazon tub, and it's hot. It's 100 degrees outside, but that thing is filled to the brim with ice, and it is overflowing. And I remember just being like, I'm not getting in that. And I watched everyone else go first, and then when it was my turn, I was guided, and I stayed in for 6 minutes.
Oh my gosh, your first time?
That first time.
That's incredible.
And during those 6 minutes, I felt a sense of self-worth, of safety, of confidence, and of self-love. And those were feelings I had been searching for a decade.
Wow.
Because in 2011, 6 days after I graduated high school, I witnessed the death of my high school boyfriend in a car accident.
Oh my gosh.
And so college did not go as planned. The anxiety and the depression that came out from that were life-changing. And I had been searching for those exact feelings, though, through medication, through therapy, through other doctors. And at that point in my life, I was a strength training and nutrition coach. So I thought I had been coming at my mental health from every possible angle. So for that stupid bucket of water to have what I had been searching for, I was perplexed. And I told myself 2 things. I said, we need to do more of this, and I need to figure out what the heck just happened to my mind and body.
Wow.
And then I just became absolutely obsessed with cold exposure.
That's amazing. That story leading up to the ice bath is incredible and crazy, and I feel like so many people can relate to going through tragedy or trauma or grief or depression and trying to solve it from every which angle and direction externally. That's kind of how I went at my trauma. I tried to fix it through the gym and then through therapy, every external way that I could, but until you find yourself, whether that be through an ice bath or through yoga or through different modalities, it's really amazing
Yeah.
to find and come back to yourself.
Yeah, and I'm so grateful that you've done the work for yourself, because I think that's the first step, is recognizing what the things are that we need to work through. And one of the certifications that I did was a trauma-informed care practitioner. And it's so interesting because a lot of us think of trauma as one event, but what that certification covered a lot about developmental trauma. And with developmental trauma, also people tend to think of issues of intentional abuse or miscare.
Sure.
But what a lot of developmental trauma is neglect too. And what I think is really interesting is sometimes things come up in here and people have a lot of anxiety and they don't know why. And it's interesting because specifically with the certification, they were talking about with developmental trauma, with neglect. And I am not a therapist, it is something that is a massive boundary I set, is we stay in the present and we go forward.
Sure.
I don't go back, but sometimes just knowing this about human development allows me to direct people and refer them into to the containers that they need. So with neglect, a lot of times it's hard because people don't have anything to be mad at.
Sure.
Or sad at.
That's true. It's a void.
It's a void. And so what a therapist would do is help the person backfill and see like what was missing and then what emotions they can direct at that. So that was a little bit of a tangent, but in terms of the things that we need to work through, it's interesting because there's obviously that like massive psychological piece.
Definitely.
But then there's, if you haven't resolved how that manifests in the body, then you will never find calm. As we said, the body keeps the score. And the way that I like to think about it in terms of breathing is if you are chronically stressed or if you've been through trauma, then your rib cage basically braces. It's almost as if you're in a boxing ring and you're about to get punched. What does your rib cage do? And your abs, they tense, right? And on a subconscious level, that's what our bodies will do if we constantly feel under threat from stress, from trauma. And what I see in people's breathing patterns is that's when people become super vertical breathers. And the analogy I like to give is it's almost like wrapping duct tape around a balloon.
Yeah, that's true.
And that it's like a corset that we put on ourselves. And so getting people to restore their breathing mechanics to be fully diaphragmatic horizontal breathers is so much. I can teach you a million breathing exercises, but if it's not paired with what is the thought I need to rewire in my nervous system to become more automatic, to make my body let down that shield.
And what is the thought that you share with people or try to help people find?
It's different for every person. A lot of times, people, especially high achievers that I work with, they are yes people. They say yes to things and overload their plate and take on more than at their soul they know they want to.
So true.
And we often tend to do that because we don't feel worthy until we do more. And so I never go that angle, but I always ask people, what's the mantra that you want to work on today? And some people are like, I don't know, like give me some examples. And I'll say a couple. And some of the ones that I offer are, I belong exactly as I am. I'm worthy exactly as I am. I'm safe in my body, in my mind, and in this space. But the words exactly as I am are very resonant to people. The other interesting thing is the word enough. I am enough. Because oftentimes, especially in Western society, we view enough as a negative thing.
Right.
Like I only have just enough.
Yeah.
Whereas enough is actually, if you take it from an abundance mindset, it means something completely different.
That is so true.
Yeah.
And I feel like starting with enough or safety or just this baseline, kind of like Maslow's hierarchy of needs.
Yes.
The baseline of what you need is actually a really good place to start, because I was talking to my boyfriend about this, and the idea of like getting to self-love. You think you need to be like, I love myself immediately, but it's like you can't, and you can't like start from that place. You can try, but that's a big leap. But just starting from the baseline of getting back to that safety psychologically and in your body is amazing.
Yes, yes, and I really love that you brought Maslow into this. We skip.
Yeah.
We really skip through that.
You're
and,
right.
A lot of, in the wellness industry, performance is a really big topic now.
Yes.
And in my head, when I think of performance, we think of athlete performance, we think of like job performance. I know that a lot of people are coming at it from the full range of we are underperforming to getting us to a place where we can stay sustainable, kind of like a endurance event, and then like high performing. So I know people have different kind of definitions of it, but when I kind of think of the word perform, I think we need to create this foundation to then allow people to be able to perform. I had a client who was just pushing themselves at work. And for men, for women, for whoever, like I'll often ask them, what is the thought that like you need? So going back to like what are the mantras, like it's really different for everyone. And sometimes I ask people how their week is, and we quantify 12 different domains. So shortness of breath, stress, anxiety, attitude, patience, mood, coping, digestion, headaches, neck and shoulder tension, and a couple others as well. And based on that will remind people about things of their week. They'll let me know like, oh, actually that was a really awful part of my week. Yeah. That was a challenge, and we'll talk through that. And then I'll say like, okay, like what do we need to rewire? And they'll say something, and then we write the mantra down on the sticky note, and we post it up on the wall. And then they look at that as they're breathing and as they're taking the ice bath, because as you're taking things in, as you're breathing in, when you're taking in your new thought, you are joining that mind-body connection.
That's so true. So when someone comes in to see you, I know Lucas has been on the show, he's our dear friend, and he's one of your clients. Are you working with them on their breathing mechanics first, and then they're getting into the ice, or is it combined? Because people see the ice bath, and they're like, oh my god, and they have not done it before. That's impressive that you did it 6 minutes your first time.
It was 100 degrees outside,
though. The first time I did it was like 30 seconds, if that. Because it's really kind of a scary thing, but once you get past that pain point, it's really amazing. Yeah,
so that's a great question. So when people come in, it depends on what people need, but I always do assess breathing mechanics first, just because it's a very low-hanging fruit, and usually when we solve that, a lot of things trickle down. I've started to work with a number of clients with panic attacks, and the protocol that I have for panic attacks involves fixing baseline breathing mechanics. Not only teaching slower tools, but often with panic disorder, people are forcing themselves to calm down, and that reinforces that shortness of breath is bad, that a beating heart is bad, and that triggers the anxiety of the anxiety, which is then a panic attack. So when people come in, we'll do breathing mechanics. We'll then talk about what their goals are. We'll talk about like what tools do they need. Some people they are really not great sleepers.
That's true.
They think they're getting enough, but they're waking up exhausted, and we go into hygiene habits about sleep quality. Some people come in and they want to have better focus and productivity at work. We will work on technology use and work-life boundaries. That's actually
really important for someone like me.
And I call all these like positive powers. These are the nervous system regulation habits that I wish we were all taught kind of as like a hard skill.
Right.
And then I'll have people lay down. We have like all those blankets, eye masks, like essential oils, and I'll guide them through slower, connected to music, exercises.
I love that.
And you gotta come in and do it and experience
when am I booking my session? I have like a bunch of people. Michaela, we met you at
yes.
And you were grading our breathing, and we're all so interested. Like, have you done events in here before?
Yes,
too?
yeah. And so with the one-to-ones, what then the assessment that I did with you is called the breathing IQ.
Yes.
And so that is cool because we actually, I co-authored a paper on that was just published 2 weeks ago in Frontiers in Physiology.
Congratulations.
Thanks. Yeah, it was a very meaningful paper to me because when I initially went to college, I wanted to be a doctor like my mom, and then having to switch majors because I couldn't handle the pre-med course load, I always wanted to go back to science, and so my dream for this is actually for it to be half a business, half a lab.
Yeah, like data.
Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing.
And so, in the appointment, breathing, we take your breathing IQ, we do the breathing mechanics, we have you lay down, then we'll go into some faster breathing exercises, and then some people want to do an ice bath, some people don't. I've had lifelong smokers come to me and they're like, I just want to fix my breathing, learn how to calm down. I have no interest in the ice bath. But what's really interesting is some people that come to me for anxiety and they have okay breathing mechanics, we tune them up, I teach them a bunch of stuff, but I say, I had one client who was a world champion, motorcycle racer.
Oh, wow.
And she was holding her breath all the time during races. And that lack of oxygen to your prefrontal cortex as you are driving at a very high speeds can be really, really troublesome. And so I told her, I was like, I can teach you these in a controlled environment, on the floor, just hanging out underneath a blanket. But if you can't implement those when you get stressed, what are we gonna do?
Right.
So she really did not want to go in the ice bath at all. And as I said, we can manipulate those 3 variables, temperature, time, and how much of your body is in.
Yeah.
I convinced her to sit on the edge and put her feet in.
Oh, okay.
And I had her do her breathing for 30 seconds. And then the next week she came back and she sat in the water kneeling, so it was up to her thighs. And then the week after that, she got in. Nice. And she realized it wasn't that scary.
Yeah. Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
So you really work with people on an individual level, which is great. And I feel like when people enter the space, it's so cozy in here, first of all. It reminds me of Denmark, like hygge.
Oh my gosh, hygge, yeah.
When you said Denmark, I'm like, oh, I get you now. You have a great style. But they're walking in with a lot of trauma and baggage and things that they probably don't even know they're walking in with, and going throughout the journey, like you said, the body keeps the score. We keep going back to that, but it's so true. And releasing that stress, whether it be in your hips or in your brain or in your throat, wherever it is amazing that there are different ways that you work with people to figure that out.
Well, it's super cool, and this is the reason why, and to go back to your earlier question, I'm sorry, I'm dancing real hard, and we're jumping around, but in workshops, I love workshops because I'm able to work with more people at once, and I really believe that we all deserve a reset, and so being able to give a good chunk of people a reset at the same time, and seeing everyone breathe together and the group energy is really powerful, but I really, really, really am passionate about working with people one-to-one. I know it has a limit to scaling. I don't care. I love one-to-ones.
Yes.
Because when people walk in and I see them breathing, your breath is your barometer. And so if I have had one client and he's a baseline fast breathing, and it's so funny because when I'm just inviting people to do these exercises, I don't usually give them a cadence at first. I kind of see how they do it, and everything he did was fast. Fast breath, fast mind. His mind was going 1,000,000 miles a minute. And I asked him, I was like, did you grow up in a very high-paced environment? He was like, yes, I did. And I was like, I can see that. You have a tendency to go. And this person struggles with anxiety, and it's you can't slow down your breath, you can't slow down your mind.
Right.
But so going all the way back to your question about the workshops, in the workshops we'll do we don't do the breathing IQ, but we'll do a touch on mechanics, Everyone's out there. We clear out the furniture.
Nice.
And then we'll have yoga mats. We can fit like 15 to 20 people out there. And then people lay down, put the eye masks on, and it's like a full hour of breath work. So a real nice cleansing experience. And then we'll come in here and everyone takes an ice bath. So
That's amazing.
that's about like a 90-minute experience, and I do them once a month.
Oh, wow.
But I also have like a free breathwork class I'm doing in Cambridge every Wednesday.
Nice.
I just wanted to make something accessible to everyone in the city.
And for people listening, what's a technique that they can use right now if they're driving in the car and they're stressed going to work that can really bring them back to the present moment?
Ooh, I love this question. Okay, so we can do it right now. So I want you, because if you're driving, I want you to keep your eyes open.
Yes.
So this is just simple 4-8 breathing. The most common one is box breathing, but a lot of people can't tolerate breath holds. Actually, they make them more anxious.
Interesting.
So I do not like teaching box breathing as the first touch point. So the best way to calm your mind is simply by slowing down your breath, specifically your exhale, which slows down your heart rate. So all we're gonna do is, if you're sitting somewhere where you can touch both hands, I want you to grab your index finger and just grip it. This is the adult version of sucking your thumb. And so if you're not operating heavy machinery, you're not underwater, you can just hold that finger and find like a nice neutral point, like looking straight ahead, and inhale for 4 counts through your nose. And exhale for 8 counts through your mouth like you're blowing out birthday candles. Good. And then we'll repeat 2 more times. Inhale for 4. Exhale 8. One more. Inhale for 4. And exhale for 8.
That felt good.
Right?
Yeah, it's very calming. And this is interesting too, holding your finger.
It's a fraction of a Japanese technique.
Interesting.
And I'm going to butcher the name, and so I'm actually not going to even try to say it. But the technique is really interesting because it identifies like a different part of your psyche in each of the fingers. I think one finger represents anger, another grief, another self-confidence, and in the full breathing technique, you actually kind of grip every finger, and you can do both hands, but simply just holding one, it's like a touch point.
Yeah.
And what I love about this too is you can do it in a meeting.
That's so true. No one's gonna know.
No one's gonna. You can do that dinner. No one's
Yeah.
gonna know.
It's so true.
But the other reason why I cued exhaling through your mouth, like you're blowing out birthday candles, is because simply becoming aware of the sensation of air on your lips is extremely calming. Extremely calming. I'm just going to throw out another one because this is the one that I use a lot, especially when I'm driving in Boston, which is a very frustrating place to drive.
Yes.
It's an ujjayi breath.
Oh yes, from yoga.
And you know this. So the way that I was taught to cue it is just inhaling through your nose, exhaling through your nose. And then as you're exhaling through your nose, constricting the muscles of your throat. So that way your breath makes almost a sound like a wave underwater. And so it sounds like this. You inhale your nose, exhale through your nose, constricting the muscles of your throat. Is that what it sounds like usually
Yes,
with you?
yeah. They always say Darth Vader.
Yeah!
Like my yoga instructors.
Oh, I love that!
But yeah, no, that's amazing.
Yeah.
And what does that do?
So that also is a very grounding breath because you not only are slowing down your breath because you're constricting the muscles of your throat, so you have a more narrow passageway, so it's a lower flow of air through, but you're also making your vocal cords vibrate, and that is a very grounding sensation. So sometimes I will Darth Vader Ujjayi breathe when people are being crazy drivers around me, and I'll be like,
I love it. And for people listening, what is something that they could take away from this talk from this interview into their lives other than a breath, but maybe more of a mantra or mindset that you want to leave with them?
I love that. I would say take right now, you can pause it, or right after you're done listening, take a second to check in with your body and to see where you're holding tension, where you might feel lightness or cool, fluttering or movement, just checking in with your body. And then ask yourself, what emotion am I feeling right now? And see that relationship between the sensations in your body and the emotion in your mind. Because a lot of us have a disconnect with that. And then based on that, let's say it's not a great emotion. Let's say it is anxiety or the thing that I like to say a lot about anxiety is often rooted in fear.
Yes.
And if you can figure out what the fear is, you are much more efficient at overcoming it. So let's stick with this anxiety example. So let's say you feel a ton of tension in your shoulders and you feel really anxious. You feel like a tightening in your chest. Ask yourself, what am I scared of right now? And allowing yourself to be honest with yourself.
Yeah.
And maybe it is you had a great day at work or something like that, but you have a massive presentation tomorrow and all you are trying to secure funding and you're scared that you're not going to do a good job. And so then in terms of mantra, it's what are the words my brain needs to hear to quell that fear? And this is where self-compassion comes in, which is another skill that we develop in here. But it's thinking, okay, do I need to know, like, I am capable of this. I have proven myself time and time again. No matter what happens, I've got this. Everything will be okay no matter what happens. Getting comfortable with uncertainty, acknowledging our capabilities, acknowledging our capacity to develop safety in our bodies, in our lives, is a key feature of resilience. So figuring out what the sensations are in your body, connecting it to what emotion you're feeling. If it is anxiety, figuring out what the exact fear is, and then what are the exact words your mind needs to hear to quell that fear. So that is a very long answer to a very simple question, but that is, nothing is simple. We can break things down, but in order to have solutions that truly target the root cause of things, they're always multi-layered.
Definitely. And I love how this practice connects the mind and the body in a very seamless way, through the ice, through the breath, through your mantras, because a lot of times people, like I used to only work out and I'm like, well, this is going to fix my internal self because I'll look good, I'll feel good. And then I was like, well, I feel worse, but I look good.
Yes.
And I feel good externally, but internally I felt worse. But taking it to a practice that allows you to connect those two with a coach, I think is a really amazing thing to do for yourself. Yeah.
And I think the ice is a microcosm. When you are on, I used to have a mat right there that said, stop thinking, get in. But it's when you're stepping up to the plate, you are confronted with every fear that you have. And often it's a fear about capacity, your capabilities to do something. And so the reason why everyone has they'll say, I got in and got out, like at another place, and I'll be like, I got you, like, don't worry, it's gonna be different. Is first, like, reminding yourself how you have to breathe. So we breathe in that same 4-8 way, actually, in the ice bath. And we practice that beforehand.
Nice.
And then sometimes I have people squeeze all their muscles before they get in. And then when they get in, getting down as quickly as possible and hyper focusing on their breath. Like, close your eyes, tune out the external world. You don't have a body, you don't have a head, you are only one big inhale and exhale.
Yeah.
And when you do that and you win the first 30 seconds, you develop a thermal layer around you. So your body's giving off heat.
Interesting.
You numb out. And you're like, this isn't bad.
Yeah.
I've got this. Oh, this is really easy. And so just going through that whole arc reminds you that no matter what the next big hurdle is in life, you might be scared and that's okay.
Yeah.
But with this incredible duality of life, you can do hard things and be scared of them. But you can have success in the midst of fear.
And to end off, I think people are wondering, what's in it for me? What are the long-term benefits of not only the mind, but for the body? I think you've mentioned hormone balance, you've mentioned metabolism and sleep quality, but could you just walk through maybe 5 points?
Yeah. Massive reductions in anxiety, massive improvements in sleep, way better focus and productivity.
That's so true. Because we're always on our phones, so we have like the TikTok brain.
And so scrolling is actually, I know this is the last thing, but scrolling is actually a form of avoidance. And so if we can figure out what we're scared of, again, going back to fear, then what we're avoiding, then we actually are able to have better technology habits. So better anxiety, improvements with anxiety, better quality sleep is huge. Enhanced focus and productivity, better relationships, because another practice we do in here is figuring out our values.
I love that. And
then filtering new incoming connections or whatnot through our values.
That's so important.
I do that a lot with college students, because sometimes you connect with someone who's on the same team as you, but you actually don't have the capacity, you don't have shared values, and so they're not a good long-term friend.
Right.
So enhanced relationships, and then more joy. Because that's a lot of the work that we do in here is like, what do we need to overcome to have more joy in our lives?
Well, you're just a joy yourself. So I so appreciate your time. And how can people find you, connect with you, read your paper, all the things?
Yes. So you can go right to icebathboston.com. Right there you can schedule a free one-to-one consult with me. It's a 30-minute call. I do want to get to know you and your goals and what you're seeking. I'm not the right match for everyone. I'm not the right resource, and I will be very honest with everyone if I'm not the right tool, because I don't want to waste your time. I hate it when people waste my time. And then if you want to book a workshop, you can also book workshops on there. You can come to our free class on Wednesday at the Cambridge Foundry from 5 to 6 p.m. And you can come to the once-a-month workshops here as well. Right here, Ice Bath Boston is housed within Physics PT, and we have an awesome partnership, and they are an entirely nervous system-based PT clinic. So we can cover mental and physical.
Totally. Well, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you so much for
today.
having me.
This was so much fun.